If you like what you see here, go visit our website at carolinaballisticsta.net. Sign up for gun classes, check out our merchandise, and once you're done there, go ahead and share, like, and subscribe to all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing? My name is Daniel Irwin. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. David Harris.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
We are Carolina Ballistics and Training Academy. Guys, we have made it to episode 8. I can't believe it myself. David, how have you enjoyed this experience?
It's been pretty good. I enjoy it. Give me a chance to vent.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I've gotten to meet a lot of people, different people in the industry, and it's been real good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've enjoyed it. You?
For sure. Oh, man. Like you said, all the people that we've met between them and all the connections that we've been able to make, and it's been a really, really interesting business to explore. Vic has literally given us like the best direction in making this whole thing happen, so it's been really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Guys, so this episode is going to be unique, all right? So normally, me and Dave, we like to have guests come through that vary from different aspects of life pertaining to 2A and the 2A community. But today, we're going to do something a little bit different. Unlike our pilot episode, in which we talked about what qualified us to be instructors and the like, this episode, we're going to do something a little bit more intimate. You're going to learn about myself and Dave. Not just like our qualifications and our work experience, but our background. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Daniel Irwin, as you guys already know. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but I was raised in Stokesdale Elementary. Well, Stokesdale, North Carolina. I went to Stokesdale Elementary.
Okay.
School-wise, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, so you were raised in Stokesdale, not Stokesdale Elementary. Okay.
No, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
The school raised me.
All right. Yeah. Like that's. I was like, okay.
So what's interesting, because we talked a little bit last week in connection with the crack epidemic. Right? Mm-hmm. So a little bit about my parents. My father was a general contractor. He owned one of the largest minority-owned construction companies on the East Coast.
Okay.
But crack epidemic, like what Rick James says, cocaine's a hell of a drug, you know, and it impacted Philadelphia so significantly that the decade of the 80s, Philadelphia was considered like the murder capital of the world.
Okay.
So my dad inevitably like popped smoke and said, "We got to get up out of here." You know? Okay. So we went from living in the city of Philadelphia to moving to the country of North Carolina in Stokesdale.
All right.
My mother was a bank manager for Bank of America. Her whole thing was she was like the lead bank manager for like loans and mortgages and stuff like that. So I say that not to necessarily, talk about, how great everything was, but as we mentioned last week, our upbringing shapes our perception of reality and of life. And stuff
It helps shape your views.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So as I got older, I was, for the most part of my life, I was raised in a predominantly like white environment, whether it was from elementary school, middle school, high school, or even the religious functions that we would go to. It was majorly like white centered and stuff like that. With me and my brothers being like the only, black people, in the school in general. So it had an impact, on a lot of things.
Such as?
Firearms was number one.
Okay.
Guns in the country is, it's like a staple, You know what I'm saying?
Okay, hunting and fishing. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it was a staple, and just naturally being raised in the country, North Carolina, particularly when you live in like the Triad area, is considered like the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
So like you know, you can't walk a block without running into a church or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of
agreed.
That's kind of like what assisted in like developing how I view life and the priorities that I put on certain things like family, country, and God. Those are staples for me as an individual. What I feel are the most important aspects. In our pilot episode, I talked a little bit about why I got into firearms. Initially was for protection, then later on it became like an obsession, you know?
Yeah.
Just like you know?
Yeah.
But things kind of changed as I got older. I think I was 20 years old. And my dad, my dad was raised in the inner city of North Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And he would talk about, as you mentioned, like drive-bys and drug dealers. Like I actually had a family member that literally stole like furniture from like my grandmom's house. Like, like that's how bad crack was, in North Philly.
Okay.
Where they're from. But anyways, moving forward, I think I was about 20 years old. I was in UNCG in school to be a nurse, a registered nurse or something like that. And I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really like care or anything. I just kind of dicked off my 20s or whatever. And so my dad was like, you have a completely thwarted perception of reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't appreciate money, you don't appreciate all this stuff that we're giving you.
Yeah.
Like I just there's an old quote that talks about like how hard times make strong men and strong men make good times and good times make weak men. And I was really I felt like that really applied to me because my dad had like my mom and my dad. I keep saying my dad, but my mom, she was very much considerable in the income of the house. But they made this really good life for me and my brothers.
Yeah.
And we just kind of, I don't know, I guess didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, you didn't understand how good you had it.
Exactly.
I get it.
So my dad ended up switching us over to another place of worship in which like majority of the people there were like all like living either at the poverty level or below the poverty level.
Okay.
Yeah. So which was significant for me because like prior to that, I had like a warped perception of everybody got money. You don't got money, it's your own fault. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm living in this environment now, and preaching with these people, I'm talking to these people, I'm interacting, and I'm like developing a more a more rounded understanding of what life was.
Yeah,
saying?
He was trying to make you a more well-rounded person.
Exactly.
And understand that something that we all, I think parents are guilty of is we want it so good for our kids and we try to make it better. Yeah. But do we make it so much better that we cripple them? Exactly.
And I think that's what that nails it. That exactly nails it. You know what I'm saying? That was a really good experience in that, from my perspective, I was like, I really should be thankful for, everything that I have and the things that my parents were able to like provide for me and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't have it, to my extent, So like, growing up, I went to, one of the best high schools and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Viking or anything, but I went to one of the best high schools in North Carolina. I went to one of the best colleges in the Triad area. And I just assumed that was just kind of like how life went. You know what I'm saying? So as I got older, I started to see that people are struggling, and for some people things don't get better. You know what I'm saying? I have one of my best friends. His name is I won't even drop his name like that, but he's had like the longest string of misfortune that I have ever seen in my life. Like no joke, like in the span of a month, he would like lose his car, he would lose his house, he would his animals would die, and then he would get robbed. Yeah. And it just didn't stop. And it would just continue for like 5 years, you know? And I would just like, yo, how does somebody have so much, bad luck, you know? And, yeah. It reminds me of a scenario that happened to me, probably, about 3 or 4 months ago, and I wanted to talk about pronouns. A little bit. So the big thing that people are harping on like nowadays are like pronouns, like referring to people as them or they or
him and her and
him or her and all that. Yeah. All that.
Yeah, I'm tracking.
Yeah. So, what I will say is when I was in high school, I ain't gonna lie, I probably said some real foul stuff. Not just about, people's pronouns, but like, homosexuals in general. You know what I'm saying? But moving forward, so I went to Subway. To get my wife like a wrap, some kind of like veggie wrap or something like that. And I remember the lady that was preparing I don't know what she was. She was preparing our food, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
No, I got it. I didn't. Got it. The lady that preparing your food.
Yeah. She was like timid. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like you can tell that she was like uncomfortable in her skin.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And I didn't know how to I didn't want to be like mean, and I didn't want to be offensive. So I went to her coworker who, I frequented that Subway. I went to a coworker and I was like, what does that person prefer to be called? And he was like, call her him, call her her, she don't care. And I was like, I feel like that's the wrong answer.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
So my question is, are you saying that you wanted to refer to the person as the right pronoun to not offend them?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so the reason why I say that, so I was, raised in Stokesdale. Mm-hmm. And I was in a majority white environment, and I remember I was talking to one of the kids, and it was crazy that this conversation happened in elementary school. But the guy was like, "What do we call you?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What do you call me?" He's like, "Are you black? Are you African American? Are you colored? What are you?" You know what I'm saying? I'm like, "I'm Daniel. What do you mean? What?"
I get
you colored.
Yeah, that's a long time ago, right? Well, what are we saying?
Yeah.
My thing would be this, man, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna call it how I see it. Mm-hmm. Now I could be wrong, but if I say, "Hey, ma'am," and you's like, "I'm not a ma'am, it's him, it's sir," and I'm like, "My bad."
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't know that, but my lying eyes told me something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, hey, I'm going to call what I see.
And normally that's exactly like how I would have took it. I don't know. This person was like 14, 15, 16 years old. Yeah. And like I saw this person as like a kid. You know what I'm saying?
It was a kid.
It was straight up a kid. And I was like, this person probably gets picked on relentlessly. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
I don't think so. I think kids nowadays are more accepting of that stuff. Like, I think they grew up with it, so it's normal. For us, probably we would have picked on them because we didn't grow up with it. So you would have been the odd one. Yeah. But now it's so much like pansexual, this, that. It's so many different terms and so much different acceptance that I would hope that we're at a point where they're not getting picked
acting
on.
like that. Yeah. So, and I'm happy you mentioned that because I had a neighbor. Her and her husband actually just moved to Fort Benning.
Okay.
They have an autistic child, and he's socially autistic.
Got it.
Yeah. And he would get like bullied to the point that he would like be in tears. And this kid is only like 8, 9, 10 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I don't like, and who knows? You might be right that nobody is saying anything, but like I guess what like because like her scenario with her and her child was like so fresh in my mind, I kind of like assumed that same scenario could be happening to this person. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. It could.
Yeah, it could. It could. And and just thinking about all the things that as a younger person I may have said that was not PC. You know what I'm saying? When I was like in high school and stuff like that. I really felt like, dude, I don't know. I felt like I wanted to make sure that I was right in this situation. You know what I'm saying?
You weren't wrong for that.
Yeah. So like it was so interesting because like the whole interaction between me and this lady is probably, I don't know, like a minute, 45 seconds. You know what I'm saying? And we get to the register and I didn't want to sound weird, but I sound weird anyways. I was like, "Thank you so much, ma'am."
What's wrong with that?
Because I wanted to say something else. I wanted to say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry that you might have had, been picked on as a child. That's terrible. I might have picked on some guys myself when I was a kid." And I want to use you as an opportunity to kind of, apologize for all that,
Okay. That's deep.
Yeah.
I think this is just my thoughts on it. I think that you said thank you. You showed respect. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's my obligation to try to fix everything for everyone.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't do that. It's impossible. So when you're saying like, hey, all you can do is show the respect that person's due and move forward. And then if you feel bad about things you've done in the past or the way you treated people, then change.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is just change who you are, change how you treat people moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you can't change the past.
Yeah.
What's in the past is in the past.
Right.
And one thing I can tell you is kids are mean. So, I think I'm a mean, all of us were mean kids. So what's the problem with that?
Yeah.
Like if we're mean kids and kids are mean and kids, guess what else? They are honest. Kids are mean and kids are honest. So kids are going to say what truth. Hey, you're a weirdo. You're a weirdo. You're the only one doing this. You're the only one doing this. And kids keep it honest and real. And the only bad thing is that you don't want kids to bully someone into the point of suicide or something like that.
Themselves.
Yeah. So all you can do as an individual is try to treat that person with respect and dignity and move forward.
Yeah, big facts. Yeah, big facts. And I think especially from and I think like that level of honesty within ourselves. I don't know. I feel like that assists in like personal development, personal growth, and stuff like that.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Self-reflection is huge.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that was a little bit about myself, guys.
Okay.
That's the end of the show. All right, y'all be good. No, I'm just joking.
Okay.
Dave,
Okay.
We're going to use this opportunity to talk about something. Last week, we delved a little bit about who Dave is. We know that you're a special forces guy. We know that you're a gun dude. military, all that good stuff. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You want me to cover what I covered last week?
I want you to say everything you feel that you need to say.
All right. So my story is a little different than yours. Like I said before, my dad was on crack and my mom was an alcoholic. The bigger thing I want people to understand about the story is that we can overcome. We can keep pushing forward as a people, as a community, as everything. But we shouldn't start judging and start isolating ourselves. So, like I said, my mom was alcoholic. My dad was on crack. I grew up in the epidemic, had cousins that sold drugs. All of them, the 3 that sold drugs are dead now. They were killed. Decided to join the Army, came in, and that was that. Really not getting too much into it again, I guess. That was a pretty long and deep scenario. What would you like to know? Just ask any question you want.
Yeah.
If you want to get particular about the things I put out, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So, you grew up in Oakland during the crack epidemic.
The Bay Area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And during the crack epidemic. How were you able to, because like you came from I don't want to say fractured, but you came from a home that was not picture perfect.
Dysfunctional.
Yeah.
It's okay to say the word.
Well, yeah, I'll let you say it. I'll let you say it.
All right, dysfunctional.
How were you able to
overcome it?
Yeah.
All right, so my grandmother Shirley and my grandfather BJ. So I come from a weird family. So I have my grandpa BJ and my grandmother Shirley who got married before I was born. My grandfather David is who I took my name from. And that's my mom's father. But growing up, Grandpa David would come. I guess what they call now is co-parenting. It wasn't a term for it when I was a kid. Grandpa David would come to like everything. Wow. Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that. And so in my mind, it was never weird to have 2 grandfathers on the same side.
Wow.
Like my dad's side of the family, I knew my grandmother May. She was a part of it, but the rest of them, I really don't have contact with. So it was never weird for me to have that. Grandpa Dave and Grandpa BJ sitting side by side and the kids calling, and my mom and them calling them both dad.
Wow.
And that never was weird to me.
Wow.
So, but me and my mom were in and out of my dad's house my whole life. And we make stereotypes and say things, but people say stereotypes. Stereotypes are true. That's what we don't want to realize. Like, hey, black people can't swim. Well, guess what? 70% can't. So it might be true.
What you mean?
yeah, but it might be kind of true.
Yeah.
So stereotypes are true. Yeah. So like my grandpa and them, we were in and out my grandfather's house my whole life. My mom was really young, had me when she was 18, and was really more or less chasing men most of my life, like looking for men. Like my mom was married and divorced 6 times. So she was always after men more than like really focused. Luckily for me, when I say focus on taking care of her kid. Well, my grandparents kind of filled that role. And even though my mom would find a man and we'd move out, I spent more time with my grandmother and my grandfather. And I remember things about my grandfather, BJ, who passed, like he taught me a lot. And not even taught me a lot as in taught me from doing, like, hey, taking me somewhere, taught me from like seeing, right? So like I remember my grandfather BJ, and I didn't even really get it at the time, but I would go to school and he worked nights at Barton. He started off as a janitor at Barton. When he retired, he was the 3rd highest person in the company, making really good money. Well, he would like get up and work all night. And then I would come home from school, and then back at the time, latchkey kid. I had a key around my neck. And I would come home from school, and I would always lose my key and break into the house. Wow. Like I'd have to break in somehow.
Jesus Christ.
So I would break in, and he would be home, and he would always, I would come home, and he would get up and make a sandwich for me. Like make something for me to eat. Wow. And I would come, and then I would do my homework, and he would help me with that. And then he'd go back to sleep, and then go to work all night. And at the time, being a kid, you don't really realize how much someone is sacrificing for you to be in a position. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, I would do that, and that was our life for in and out. Like then we would move out and be gone for 6-7 months, and then we'd move back. Wow. And then guess what? they would take us back in, and me and my mom would have one room in the house, and that would be our room, and we'd be there for a while, and then we would move out because she'd find a man she was with, whatever. That didn't work out. 8 months later, we'd be back in the house with grandparents.
Wow.
And so that was mostly my life the whole time. And don't get me wrong, like they had, my Uncle Marcus like 5 years older than me. So like they had their own kid too. Mm-hmm. But my Uncle Marcus and me grew up more like brothers than like uncle and nephew because we were in the house so much together. And then and we were only 5 years apart. So like, it was kind of like, yo, you know what I mean? So I mean like that was my life. And I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really go to school. I was pretty much in the streets most of my life, like ripping and running. Like I said, people thought I was probably going to go to prison. No. Actually, people in the neighborhood told my grandmother he's going to wind up in prison, like because I was so into the streets. And most of my friends wound up in prison. I have 2 friends now that are in prison for life for murder. Wow. And then I have a couple other friends who, when I say friends, people I grew up with, that everyone became like drug dealers and stuff on the corner. And luckily for me, I'm going to be honest, I found basketball. Wow. And I loved basketball, and I knew that I had to get good grades in school to play on the team. Wow. So that's what stopped me from like, hey, I got to go to class and get a good grade to play on the team. And I wanted to go pro basketball, so I knew in my mind I had to go to college. I wasn't Kevin Garnett or some shit. So I was like, okay, I have to have good enough grades to go to college. So that's what saved me in high school from just not even going. Is that I wanted to I wanted to play basketball. I needed a 2.0. Yeah. So I went to class. Wow. And since I'm in class, I might as well do the work. Wow. And that saved me there. And then even at that time, my mom and me weren't close, but I did the things I needed to do. And then I went to college. My mom lost the house, and I was homeless for a while. And then I moved in with my aunt, who let me stay in the garage with her. And I still was going to junior college at the time. And then I got a 4-year scholarship, and I moved away to New Mexico. And I've never lived in California again. I moved away to New Mexico. Once I was done with college in New Mexico, I joined the Army in New Mexico and went into the Army. Wow.
So yeah, that's really interesting. So we talked a little bit last week about the ability to overcome adversity, and you've been able to do it. Not just being able to pass your basic and your AIT on into like your airborne school and all that other stuff, but you were able to elevate yourself to a point that you are part of one of the most elite squads in the United States military. Yeah. What would you say to people who are trying to overcome adversity in their own world? What would you say would be one of the things that help you get from being in a really bad situation to really proving to yourself that anybody can succeed?
The biggest thing I would say is bet on yourself. That's probably the biggest thing I could say, is that no one cares more about you than you. You have to bet on you. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is that I'm a firm believer that, I think everyone needs help, but no one wants to help you like you want to help you. Yeah. So, and then another thing is I'm humble enough to understand I need help. Like, I'll be honest with you, me accomplishing the things I did in the military doesn't happen without my wife. I needed her. Oh, that's the whole time. And me accomplishing the things I have in the military don't happen without my daughter. Like, when I first got in the Army, I had an Article 15 for beating up an NCO. And,
that's about right.
Yeah, because I still had a lot of
anger.
No anger. What? I had a lot of Oakland still in me. I had a lot of the Bay in me. Like, yo, man, you crossed the line. I don't give a fuck about what's on your chest. You crossed the line, I'm gonna beat your ass, yo. So check it. So I still had a lot of hood in me, and then I had a daughter where I had to understand, like, hey, if I get in trouble, it's going to affect my wife and my kid.
Yeah.
So that changed me a little bit. Not completely, but it changed
enough
to understand that. And then I'll be honest, one of the key moments for me in the Army, and we're being serious and deep, I guess, is that one time me and my wife were married. I was a private PFC
Woo!
in the Army. My wife was with me. She didn't have a job, and we had my daughter, and we didn't have anything to eat that night. We were being young and dumb. I was like 23, and my wife made hot dogs and beans for dinner.
Wow.
And I remember I cried.
Wow.
And I said, this will never happen again.
Yeah.
I will never let my family not have enough money. I will never let my family not be able to buy whatever they want. And that was my motivating factor for everything I do in life from here on out is I'm going to make sure my wife and kids always have enough.
Yeah, I can attest to that myself. And I think the military is like the great gift and the curse because they give you so much, but sometimes they don't give you enough. You know what I'm saying? So I remember me and my wife had just gotten married, and we were living in a hotel, no lie, for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Because
that's expensive.
Yeah, man. It was stupid expensive. And my wife had she was Ubering to basically make sure that we had food. It was an unbelievable situation. We weren't at our home, had just kept getting pushed back in connection with inspections.
Yeah.
And my wife had moved up from South Carolina so that we can be together.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I think I was like a PFC.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is the worst thing I have ever encountered in my life. Yeah.
So I get, and I feel where you're coming from, and I think me and you are both in the same boat. We grew up in a time where now it's not as big, but the man provided. And no disrespect, I know feminists can do, but that's one of your tasks is to provide for your family.
Oh yeah.
So when that's going on, if you take a deep look at yourself and you're like, I'm not providing.
I'm failing. I am failing. I
am failing as a man, right? And
yeah.
What do you do then? You gotta fix it. So I did everything I could to make sure my family never struggled again, and I hopefully I can continue it. I think it's a great way of going about it, but I think the problem, and to bring it to a bigger picture, is a problem as a people, and I don't mean people as black.
Yeah.
I mean a people as Americans.
Yeah.
Is that we want to be given too much, and we don't want to have we want everything given to us, and we don't want to have to work for it.
Yeah.
And there's where we're running into our dilemma. I think it's a lot of problems we can talk about that we can get into, but I think that's one of the biggest problems as Americans, that we want people giving us too much.
And even from an economical standpoint, and I ain't gonna delve too much into this. I just want to briefly.
Yeah.
But even when we were talking about all those bailouts that we were getting, man, that messed up our whole economy, man. Put us in ridiculous inflation. You know what I'm saying?
I won't comment on it. I have opinions on it, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So I'll leave it be.
Yeah.
I think personally, I think that's gonna sound bad, I guess, but I think America right now is trying to take the masculinity away from men in America. I personally believe that's one of the goals here.
It's interesting that you say that. I was looking at an interview. We were talking about it the other day in connection with Kanye West. He was talking about how his mother was incentivized to basically take him away from the father and basically move into the hood, which is absurd because she was like the head of the Department of Chicago State. Go ahead.
So I'm going to ask you this, and this is a question. Aren't we doing that now? I want you to think about it.
Go ahead.
A man and a woman have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The woman decides she don't want to be with you. Back in the day, people stayed together because they needed two incomes. The man had something to provide. Well, now if the government's willing to provide the money, I don't need you, right? So the woman goes away. Now she's getting welfare, food, whatever, and she's getting child support from you.
Yeah.
So she's making money, right? Now here's my flip side of that. Imagine if they said, okay, we're going to incentivize husband and wives having kids. That welfare is going to the husband and wives that have kids.
Oh, man. It'll be a lot more full families.
Exactly. Do you see what I'm saying? It's incentivized to break up the household.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care about race. I'm saying in urban communities, we incentivize it. And the problem becomes is at a point where because they need the money, it makes more sense for me to say, I can have a kid with you, but it makes more sense financially for us not to get married.
Yeah.
It makes more sense financially for you to get the government check and us to just live together.
Yeah.
Than it is for me to marry you and have kids and be with you.
Yeah. When we look at, and I think that's where a lot of people, and I think right now, especially in connection with Hollywood, a lot of people who are, for all the most radical things, in connection with like feminism, the breakdown of, the nuclear, what's it called? The nucleus family.
Nuclear family.
Yeah. And all these concepts are like detrimental to like the human race. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
I think it's detrimental to the human race. It's more detrimental to African Americans.
Yeah.
I think as an African American community, it's because when we start talking about, it's basically have and have nots. We can say black and white, but it's people with money, people without. If you look at it truthfully, the more money you have, the more likelihood that you'll stay together as a family. So it's who has money, who doesn't. Well, the less money you have, we are incentivizing those people not to be together.
Yeah.
And I think the further we get away from that, like it's to the point now where we're trying to get away from saying a house is a husband and wife. And I don't care about like being like, hey, two moms, two dads, fine. You have a 2-parent household is a family. No, a family is a kid, a mom, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, it could be 2 moms. I don't care what you want to call it because I'm not getting into that debate. What I'm saying is we're going away from saying a 2-parent household is the most beneficial for kids.
Yeah.
But when you look at the numbers, it tells a 2-parent household is the best way for a parent to grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, kids to grow up. If you want to get real deep into it, it actually shows that a father raising a kid by himself is better than a woman raising a kid by himself.
Wow.
But the problem is that who's the biggest spenders in America? Females. So it's just another way of redistributing funds. If you and me and us all split from our wives, my wife gets the money, now she's gonna go out and spend more money. So it's just a way to keep the money going out. It ain't really about trying to build anything. Because if that was the case, if you wanted to build it, you would give me and my wife more money when we had kids. And guess what? We would stay together and be able to make ends meet easier.
Yeah. So yeah, it that line of thought. So, question: what do you feel about the industrial prison complex? Yeah, let's delve in.
Deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
Now that we're talking about breaking up families, of course, in connection with the African American community, I think I read it was like 1 in 6 African American males.
1 in 4.
Well, yeah, 1 in 4 will either be in jail, be in prison, or in some form be incarcerated.
Yes. How deep do you want to get into this? Are we going back to the 13th Amendment? Are we going back to...
So
I'm just asking.
It's and I've always found we're going there.
Okay.
We're going there.
Okay.
I found it always fascinating in connection with this particular conversation, in that African Americans represent 13% of the entire population in America. The entire population.
We're actually at 10 now.
Yeah, 10%. 10% of the entire population of America, and yet we represent what, 38% of the entire prison system. And Latinx people represent 30, so right under 70% of the entire prison system is filled with people who represent barely over 30% of the population of America. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening to you because I agree and I disagree. Is what I agree with is it is a large number that is kind of like out of control. But I also disagree is saying, hey, one of the biggest reasons for that is the war on drugs, right? And Rand Paul said it. Why don't you do crack? You don't do crack because it's illegal? No, you don't do crack because you don't want to do crack. It ain't because it's illegal. The war on drugs hasn't stopped anyone from doing drugs. So a lot of the larger the population is most of them are in for drug offenses, right? So like that's one of the reasons that a lot, because it's too hard to go up the food chain and get the big time dudes. They're just taking the dudes off the corner. And most of those guys are black people or brown people that are trying to make a quick buck. And the problem is we live in a society, so right now that wants everything instantaneous, the microwave society. Hey, give it to me in 2 minutes, right? Well,
I mean, that's now, but like the war on drugs began in like the early...
I agree.
Yeah.
But but we're saying, hey, the laws on drugs are pretty much the same. We're still fighting and most of the people being locked up are for drug-related offenses.
Yeah.
Right? So what you're saying is, hey, let's be real, it didn't get into the opioid epidemic, right? Where a large majority of the people on opioids are white. And now we're saying, oh, being addicted to something is an illness. Before,
yeah, that's ironic.
When it was crack,
yeah,
being addicted to something was a crime.
Yeah, yeah. It's a completely it's a completely different approach. And I mean, like when you look at, oh man, I'm a shadow on the conversation of the Contras and the U.S. involvement, which is completely researchable. I encourage.
Are you about to get into something way?
No, I'm not going to go too deep.
Let's not talk. Yeah. Okay, go for it.
I'm gonna be very shallow. Okay. All right. So, Pablo Escobar. We're gonna go very shallow. Pablo Escobar. Led the biggest drug organization in the world that the world has ever seen, prior close to like El Chapo or something like that, right? Venezuela. I'm gonna break it down as simple as I can. Venezuela was the home of the Contras.
Yep.
Right? The Contras were a rebel force that were used by the U.S. to fight against the Venezuelan government. Are you tracking?
Everything's true. Yeah, I know this story.
Yeah. United States government would use drugs to basically finance the war in connection with overturning the U.S. government. Not U.S. government, the Venezuelan government, right? What they would do is use that drug and fuel it into the inner city. And that's what spurred the crack epidemic, right? They incentivized drug dealers to sell this product, and they gave it to them at like a ridiculously discounted rate, right? So now you had these drug dealers who had absorbent amount of... Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
They had an absorbent amount of cocaine that they knew they couldn't go into like white neighborhoods and sell because they would immediately be arrested. So what they would do is break it down into like something less recognizable by law enforcement, which was crack. And of course, everybody knows the potency of crack. It's an incredibly potent drug. So for a period of time, these drug dealers would use crack and they would give them off as freebies, right? People would take a hit. Next thing you know, when they would use marijuana, because they didn't know what crack was, they didn't know that, crack's a hell of a drug. They would take these freebies, and next thing you know, you got neighborhoods hooked on this stuff. People are making hand over fist, buku's amounts of money over crack. That's where like Freeway the rapper Rick Ross, Freeway Rick Ross pulled his name from this dude because he was like a massive crack dealer. So in connection with, you move forward into the 80s on the war on drugs, and you take all that information in connection with what the administration was trying to do. They were basically, in essence, supplying the inner city and then imprisoning them.
I agree with you, but here, this is where I sit with it, and I agree. Now, everything you said is true, and it could be researched.
Yeah, everything I say is factual.
Yeah, but my question becomes, okay, it's done. What do we do now? And that's where I'm at. At how long do you say, hey, I had a hard life? You're 28, man. Yeah. I got it. You had a hard life when you were 13.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do now? Yeah. Do we have residual problems because of that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But okay, how do we move forward? It's like one of those things where it's like, are you treating the symptoms? Or are you treating the disease?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, okay, you're sick. So am I going to treat the cold?
Yeah.
Or am I just going to try to get you to stop coughing, but you still got the cold?
You know, you know, and you're making incredible points there. So we got this crack epidemic that was basically funded by American dollars. And of course we got the opioid epidemic that is basically funded by American dollars. But the point that I'm trying to kind of hone in on was that, so this, between the war on drugs, and then the Clinton bill, what was that? The 1993 crime bill?
Yeah.
Basically you had literally a solid 10 years in which the United States literally were making criminals, hooking people on a narcotic, and then straight out prosecuting them for the same thing that they orchestrated in the first place. Go ahead.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And this is where I said my views, and I don't think my views are skewed.
Yeah. Nah.
Forgive what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And maybe because my dad was a victim of it, I'm on a I don't care kick.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I'm tracking.
What does that have to do with you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, 20 years ago, blah, blah, blah. What does that got to do with you today?
Yeah.
Hey, blah, blah, blah. So my thing becomes, okay, that's cool. I get it. They did all these things and it was wrong. And we can agree that it was wrong. But now, why is Chicago still Chicago?
Sheesh.
Why is this still so it ain't because of them now.
In 1990, but I mean, but that doesn't necessarily completely get rid of the effects of what crack did in 19. Well, what crack did up to the point.
It doesn't.
And even the bill didn't stop the production of crack either.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Really, in connection with the production of crack, you would actually have to go to where the source is, which is South America. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But for whatever reasons, you know what I'm saying? You know, cartels are still operating there.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about fixing the solution.
Yeah.
We're not giving a solution.
Yeah.
And that's where my biggest beef is with us since we're talking about it, hey, us as a people, we don't talk about solutions. We just keep talking about the past.
Yeah.
And I get it. The past is there.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know your past, you're destined to repeat it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know history. You're destined to repeat it. But we know the past.
Yeah.
So now, how do we fix it? How do we break that?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if we want to stop the flow, because I mean, like, major cities in America, from Miami to New York to all these areas are huge hubs that the cartels use to literally disperse drugs throughout the rest of the country.
Okay.
Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
So the solution that I'm saying is getting rid of the cartels. You get rid of the cartels, you get rid of the distribution. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I think that's a hard thing to go.
Yeah.
I personally
it's hard, but that's the answer.
I think that's your answer.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah. And I ain't saying that's not gonna work. I think an easier answer is personal accountability.
Yeah.
I think if we just make sure everyone understands it's personal accountability for what you do. Hey, you did the crime. You're shooting that in your arm.
Yeah.
It's personal accountability. You see what I'm saying? Like maybe, and that's why I'm saying maybe I'm the wrong guy on this because I come from a background where this happened.
That happened.
So I'm like, look, I don't care about all that other stuff. Okay, I get it. It was bad. Now, if I turn around and my son is 23, when my son's 23, or my daughter, she's 17, when she turns 23 or 24, she turns to me and says, hey, this was messed up when you didn't, like, I'm going to say to her, okay.
Yeah. But you're now 23.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
I'm done talking about, like, so my thing becomes, okay, I get all that. Now, don't. The thing I learned from my grandfather, which probably was bigger than anything, as I said, he started as a janitor, working the night shift at BART, and he retired as the third highest person in the company. The biggest thing, two things I learned was work hard, do your job well, and it will be rewarded to you.
Yeah, for sure.
So my thing becomes work hard, do your job, and you will get where you need to go.
And I agree, 100%.
Okay, but we can't look for some other reason. We can't say, hey, it's someone else's fault. It's the cartel's fault for keep sending the drugs. I agree. The cartel shouldn't send drugs, but it's also your fault for taking them.
So now look. So you have somebody who doesn't take drugs. Is it possible for somebody to be affected from the distribution of drugs who've never taken drugs?
Yes.
Like for instance, if the guy whom the cartel is selling to decides to do a drive-by and then shoots an innocent person, which is definitely a thing.
Yes.
Right?
My question
and that innocent person did nothing.
Agree.
Go ahead.
Now, my question to you is this, is that I totally agree that you are directed, you're basically saying, hey, if basically I'm in the middle of a tornado, I'm still affected by the tornado.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get it. You're still affected by your environment. Okay, what I'm saying is, the problem we have as African American people is we're looking for too many excuses. Take it for what it is. You're looking for too many excuses. Stop it. It's your responsibility. You are in a bad environment. You don't have to be bad. You can get out of that.
Yeah.
The next problem we have is that we only look at three things as a way out of our environment: rapping, playing football, and basketball. There's your fucking issue. Okay? You don't have to be a millionaire to be successful. There's our issues. Is that how many kids do we go to a school and talk to white kids, and go to a real school and talk to white kids? What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Man, I want to be this. I want to be that. Other stuff. Go to a black school. What do you want to do? Everyone on the team, I want to play professional football. Okay, guys, 3% will make it to the NFL. Out of every kid playing, 3%. So, in college right now, how many kids are in college? D1, D2, D3, black colleges, JUCO, everywhere? 3% of all those guys will actually get into the NFL. The average NFL years, 5 years. Yeah. So 3%. 80% of people in the NFL go broke after they get out. 3 to 5 years after they're out of the league, they're broke. So 3% of that will get in, and 3 to 5 years will go broke. So if I have a team full of kids that are African American, I coach my son in football. I know every single one of those kids are saying they want to play in the NFL.
They probably won't. They probably all won't make it.
No,
not all of them.
Probably no. Truthfully, none of them probably will. Wow. The odds of them making it is slim and none.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very slim. 3% of the population in America at your age group will make it.
True.
So when you
I guess a good question to ask, in your opinion, why do you think, like, if you go to like white schools, why are white students more interested in more academic things, whereas black people, in your opinion, are more interested in sports, rapping, and
drug dealing?
Drug dealing, yeah.
Okay, because we're looking at quick gains. We're trying to make millions. We're trying to do extra and be more and do this. And don't get me wrong, like I said, everyone wants to make money. But we have to change the paradigm on what we deem as success. right now we don't like, who is your kid's hero?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just told you, I had favorite basketball players. I wanted to be in the NBA. But when I talk about my hero, it's my grandfather, BJ.
Mm-hmm.
I watched what he did. His impression, what I saw from him is still with me to this day. And I'm pretty sure he didn't even know he was imprinting that on me. He was just doing what he felt he was supposed to do as a man.
Yeah.
And I think
maybe there's a connection there, in connection with positive masculine role models in a child's life that's other than like what they see on the TV.
It's a huge connection.
Yeah.
When you take 80% of our kids in the black community are born out of wedlock, and then you don't have father figures in the home with the kid, guess what? They're going to want to.
They're going to look at
the drug
TV
dealer. That guy playing basketball, that guy playing football, and that's what I want to emulate. I don't see my dad as my hero.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you see your dad get up and go to work every day, and what he provides and the life he was able to provide for you. And in your mind as a kid, that's the norm. I think this is normal. Like my daughter said to me when she was in elementary, she just assumed everyone had a mom and a dad. And when she found out everyone didn't, that was a shocker for her.
Yeah.
She just I remember someone told her, she was in high school, and she was basically, this girl said she was going to get some guy to pay for it. And she called him like her sugar daddy.
Oh, man.
And my daughter said, well, I'm just going to go ask my real dad. And I was like,
that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm your sugar daddy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm your dad.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you what if you need something, I'm going to provide that. Yeah. And that's all I'm saying is that we don't have enough of those in the community. And the problem we have is we're looking for other men to fill those roles. Yeah. Because, and half of it, a lot of it is women's fault too. No, we're trying to act like it's not. Yeah. Okay, you chose to have a kid by that guy. You chose that. If it's your right to choose whether we have kids or not, men have nothing to do with that. Then you're saying, I slept with this drug dealer and I'm gonna have his baby. You knew he was a drug dealer when you slept with him. You chose him. You chose to have a kid by him. And now that he's in jail, somehow everyone else is at fault. That ain't right.
Yeah. Well. Wow, this has been an incredible episode. Guys, if you've made it this far, go ahead.
Let me...
one more thing. David, you wanted to add something for our final thought.
Yeah. So, final thought on this. And this is something for the guys in North Carolina. And I'm going to give flowers out today. This is my final thought for flowers. So, this might take about 5 minutes. Sorry, guys. Hey, so, first thing I want to say is to Zoo City Crew. You put on 3 major matches. You're putting on another major match to take the Benning spot. Jason, Snappy, and Dave. Hey, if you ain't been up to Carolina Guns and Gear and actually shot one of their matches, they do a match every weekend. If you're in North Carolina and haven't shot a match, shame on you, man. They do USPSA, 2-gun, 3-gun, falling steel. It's nothing they do up there that you can't do. I mean, it's no match you can't go shoot if you want to get into guns. They're very helpful, and I don't care. They don't care about race and all that stuff. Black, white, it don't matter. Come shoot. And I'll be honest with you. Hey, if no one else tells you, thank you. You kept us shooting during the pandemic. You made sure we had ammo during the pandemic, ammo for sale. You took care of all the guys in North Carolina. So I truly want to say thank you and keep doing what you're doing. If no one else sees you, I see you out there, man. Next thing I'll talk about is just the crew I shoot with. Now, if I don't say your name, my bad. RJ, Thomas, Jason, Gary Head, Johnny Moffitt, JK, all you guys, thanks for being my friend and just letting me be me. All my sponsors of the last year, Weber Tactical, Rock Guns, and freaking Colt for giving me an opportunity to actually work and show that I have value. I want to say thank you to you guys too. And then last, thank you for giving me this opportunity to come on here and actually talk. And then let me give a shout out to my man, Vic. Vic, thank you for, hey, Vic, Come here, get on this camera, man.
Oh.
No, thank you, Vic, for producing this and actually having a professional setup and letting us on here and sometimes letting me vent and freestyle as much as I feel free and not trying to keep me in a box like Daniel does sometimes.
I don't keep him in the box. I promise y'all, I don't keep him in the box.
I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, man, I want to let everyone know, hey, I love y'all and thank you for this episode 8 and anytime, bro.
Yeah, we'll keep this thing trucking, guys. Thank you.